Welcome to our Fireside series. And now, today we have Pranay and Sreejit to talk on the interesting topic of the transformation. Pranay is a customer transformation advisor at Celonis and brings overall 13 years of experience in technology and business transformation. He specialized process engineering, business architect, order experience, and process mining. As a former director of process mining in Dell Technology, he led several global enterprise transformation around order management, frictionless, and automation. So that what else you can deserve that coming from the transformation expert, just such a diversified and vast bio. Another hand, we have Srijit from Tech Mahindra, who is hitting the business consulting transformation in global alliance for US and leading the position in the other Fortune 500 organization and the startup in Silicon. Srijit is coming with overall more than 2 decades of experience in incubating new business, startup operations, business consulting, digital transformation, global delivery, account management, program management, process excellence, bootstrap corporate innovation through startup and people leadership. On both sides, you might have seen that we have leaders from diversified roles. So I'll over to these two leaders to take this fireside on the interesting topic. So over to you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi. Pranay, happy to connect again.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, it's a great topic, and one that resonates with every leader who's trying to do digital transformation. I think process mining as a service, all of this resonates quite a bit, right? And I was just reading up Gartner very recently, and the global process analytics market size is expected to grow from about 180 million to almost 1.5 billion, 2 billion by 2023. That's a CAGR of almost 50%. Right, and Gartner expects that process mining in itself will probably surpass about a billion, right, growing at about 40-50%. And needless to say that Celonis actually holds more than 50-60% of the market share, right, in this particular industry.
Right.
So it's a great topic, something that a lot of people want to understand more. So I'll start with the basics, right? I think it's still an evolving industry. There is different levels of maturity within organizations. So let me start with this question. What is process mining? How has it evolved over the years? And how does it really benefit a company from a digital transformation journey perspective?
Now that's a really good question, Sri. And I've been doing process mining slash digital transformation for over a while. And when you think about process mining, the first thing comes to my mind is it's like an X-ray. It's literally like you're going to a doctor that my heart, something is aching, and then he takes through an X-ray to an MRI machine and tells you exactly what's going on in your body. It is exactly the same concept. Think of your organization. We love to think that we know our processes, but most likely we don't really know. Process mining is a science that exactly looks at the business process of end to end, and gives you opportunity to look at process inefficiencies, bottlenecks, and gets you a digital twin of your organization. Now, once you have that, it is easy for you to execute. Like, just having a process mining capability is great, but you have to take an action to make it real, right? So that's where Celonis has been building over the last several years, from being a process mining company to becoming a more execution management arm. And that's where we are evolving, is into that execution management category, where we have capabilities to look at your processes without having to change your underlying IT systems. So it is an intelligent layer that sits on top of your ecosystem that tells you where the bottleneck exists and gives you specific actions. And it enables the operational team to take specific actions to then improve your process and/or take actions which is aligned to your strategic goals. And like you said, Celonis is the market leader, captures more than 60% of the market. We are definitely working across a lot of our big Fortune 500 companies in really driving their digital transformation needs as well as strategic goals. So But yeah, that's one thing that we have been working towards is also expanding our partner ecosystem to the likes of Tech Mahindra, and where you guys are helping us out and some of the execution part um, in within the partner ecosystem. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what I'm realizing over the years is that a lot of us have started using the likes of process mining tool like Celonis on primarily process improvement, right? And kind of graduated ourselves into more use cases like audit and compliance.
yeah,
Now it's almost becoming a must go-to tool before you start off your digital transformation journey. Are you seeing something more than this evolving from a use case perspective, which gives us a little bit more diversity or breadth of value
yeah.
realization?
Well, interestingly, so I know Celonis plays into their core four systems around APAR or ServiceNow. There's some other source systems that we talk about, like Salesforce and on opportunity management. Um, but if you really think Celonis or process mining can be applied in any business function. In my past experiences with Dell, we have used process mining across our sales journey, looking at how the sales rep are going through the motion of config pricing and quoting.
Mhm.
Or you can look at customer journey, right? So there are literally standalone companies out there just they map out customer journeys, but it's very easy for Celonis to say, yeah, let's just take data from our customer experiences and map out the customer journey for you. And we did that at Dell too. um, it is untapped potential where we can go and deploy process mining from a customer journey perspective, from sales order journeys. uh, there's a huge use cases in supply chain, and we all know that every company is going through a supply chain constraint in this world. Uh, so Celonis has been one of the key differentiators, and some of our customers have used Celonis to really become more resilient in their supply chain operations. So these are some of the things that I think these individual opportunities are popping up, and I think it is just tip of the iceberg, as we say, um, to move beyond just the core four and go to customer service, um, customer journey, sales journey, as well as supply chain and other use cases.
True that, I keep looking at a lot of these new reports that you guys come out with in terms of the success that you've had with several organizations. A few of them caught my eye. I want to highlight this to the audience, right? One of the very large retailer that I was reading about was able to actually reduce the overdue payments by 30%. One thing that really, another one which really stuck to my mind was, how a very large healthcare company, actually was able to free their cash flow by 1.3 billion.
Yeah,
Now that is staggering, right? And there was a large telecom which actually saved more than close to 100 million using Celonis as an opportunity spectrum to look at their processes and see what they can do over this. So I'm seeing a variety of use cases. We are seeing a variety of applications of these into different aspects of businesses and how they run this. And we're also seeing that the value potential, right, is ranging from probably a few millions to hundreds of millions, right? So there is such a vast opportunity spectrum that kind of makes it a little tricky for organizations to understand how do you deal with this gorilla, right?
yeah,
Because you might
yeah.
have to really cage them correctly so that you can get the right value out of this. So I want to come into the meat of the topic today, which is the best practices around how do you use a tool like Celonis, right? And to a larger adoption across the organization, by which we're able to get better value out of this, right? So that is the core of what we want to discuss today. And I'll start from with you. And what are you seeing across organizations as best practices who have actually used Celonis to the fullest, right? And I kind of realized the value that they're able to tout to the marketplace.
Shrey, I think that's a really good point. Um, just having a tool doesn't make you realize value. Like I can go get all sort of shiny objects, and if I don't use it, it's worthless, right? Same
Mm-hmm.
thing with Celonis. It's not a silver bullet. I mean, you have to have, and the way I like to think of it is, any digital transformation or any given transformation program has the three common pillars, right? You have people, process, and technology. You can bring in the technology, you can change your process, and but the change management part is the toughest, where you are bringing in a new set of tools, you're bringing in new ways of doing business. um, that's where I think having a strong COE comes into picture, where you bring the data side of the picture with your IT guys. You bring in your business priorities, and this team or this core function acts like a glue between your key strategic goals to how you actually convert them into an operational KPIs, and then create that culture around operational excellence, or making sure that the people know what they're doing, or driving more training requirements. So having the COE is a key part of any value realization journey.
Let me pause you there for a second, right? I want to go slightly back. This is again to help the organization understand how to do this, right? Right. So, do you see more success when uh, the entire Celonis COE is centralized or decentralized or a mix of both? What are you seeing in organizations differently
No,
where they've made more value?
yeah, that's a interesting question. So it depends on the organization, honestly. One thing I've seen, and based on thousands of customers that we have, is more than 75% of the value realized, we had a COE in place. That's a pretty
Hmm,
strong correlation. That
interesting.
if you have a COE, you have a fairly good chance that you will realize value. And that's where I think that's where my team comes in, where we work with the customers in setting up the right COE for their organization. It is a custom built for everyone. It
Mhm.
is. It depends on the culture. It depends on organizations, how you are. Are you sitting in IT or in the business? Who has like a lot goes into designing a COE. Um, we have seen we have seen organizations who adopt a lot of hybrid model, meaning
Okay.
your COE sits in a shared service. It could be a GBS unit, or it could be an IT unit. Um, I personally ran COEs sitting in IT in my past life. I've seen people being very successful sitting only in the business as a decentralized COEs. But the probability of transformational success is lower if you're sitting in an isolation in a business unit without a core central COE. Whereas in a hybrid model, um, your transformational success becomes higher because now
Got it.
you are prodding that service across your organizations, from sales, supply chain, manufacturing to all the business units. So having a COE sit around the shared service makes some sense. That's my favorite operating model. But I've seen decentralized, even the centralized, which is hard to get to. Like if you can have a COE which is centralized that serves every need, um, I've seen that work really well. It's hard to get to because you have organizational challenges in every company. But these are the three different models that we always um,
Yeah.
help customers with.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed also is it's important to understand when you're beginning that, probably I would slightly lean in favor of having a centralized COE because then the overall effort, right, your resources becomes that much more easier to manage. And then
Yeah,
once you are really able to get a few of the use cases going, and then you're getting a hang of how to execute a few of them, then it's easier to decentralize this, right? But again,
right,
that's a personal preference of mine,
right.
not necessarily. But I've actually in Tech Mahindra, what we've seen is that the moment we started putting our efforts towards a few projects initially, right, and created the COE structure, then we started slowly decentralizing ourselves. We found more success within organizations.
I think you're right.
Again,
You're right.
just my own perspective on this. But we spoke about COE, as probably a good reason to why you will realize more value. So I think it's important for us to probably talk to the audience on what are the elements of the COE, what does it bring, right, and how does it operate. So again, if you can start talking a little bit, and then probably I'll add my own views after that.
Yeah, yeah. So the way I see the key elements of a successful COE, I put them into four different boxes, right? First box is obviously talking about governance and steering. Like
Mhm.
how do we work with our exec sponsors, understand their strategic goals, and then convert them into operational KPIs so that everyone is understood that okay, this is why we are doing this. So
Mhm.
providing a lot of governance, a lot of structure around uh, the purpose of the COE. That's just number one. More important thing, deploying and maintenance. Like someone has to work on the grounds with a team in deploying process mining and maintaining the tool sets. pulling the data from multiple sources, managing those pipelines, or just like the entire thing that goes into implementation of Celonis. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you just hook it up with multiple cloud systems. Sometimes it is not that easy where you're working with custom bespoke applications, internal applications. So it all depends on your ecosystem, but that's part of the job is to deploy and maintain and create that scalable functional and technical architecture in the organization. Third box I see it is around user enablement and support.
Uh-huh.
That is very key. Right? That's the key. The biggest thing is now that you have the tool, now you understand what you want to work on. How do you really drive change? How do you enable your users in training on Celonis or getting them the right access? How do you build a community and drive awareness? Right? Uh, Internal advocacy is key. Um, Create excitement. It's a new tool, new shiny object. How do we show the new ways of working in the future? That's a key. And obviously, monitoring adoption and usage, keeping an eye on how it is being used is something one of the features. Last but not
Sure.
the least, value framing and realization. Like that's the key. Like why are we doing this, right? So how are we really framing the value? Do we have a list of opportunities that we are going after and prioritizing them in a way, obviously then tracking the value on how we are really realizing value from a someone's implementation. So I think these are the four things that I usually see as a critical element of a COE. But I would love to hear your thoughts on uh, what else do you think in your experience COEs have done in the past?
Yeah, I think you've ticked all the right boxes. I think apart from all of these, it's also important that we have people who understand from a structure perspective, right? People who understand the domain or the customer that you're working for, right?
Yeah,
So we also license that with domain experts who can probably understand value realization way better because then they know what's the data that is coming through the funnel and then what to make use of them. So
right.
that is an important component on how we align those structure, right, with the key people. So I'm kind of jumping the gun in terms of taking out the box on key personnel that you will have as specific skill sets, right, along with the other, aspects of how to run a COE, right? But I think when it comes to what the COE will do, I think another important aspect is also on internal communication, right? So
Yeah.
we actually had a champion who would talk about the use cases that we've had and the success that we've got, and that really jumped our adoption gun with respect to what we can do with this tool, especially because it's a shiny tool, like you said, it's a new one that's in the market.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that communication is really key. Change management, communications, working with the business, like the COE. Sometimes people think that COE is just that an organization that should own everything, but it's
Mhm.
actually a glue that pulls people together. You have
Yeah.
to work with the business owners who understand their process better than anyone else. So, really good point there.
Right.
Absolutely.
So just to drill it down a bit, a little more. So what kind of specific skill sets should the COE contain? Right. We kind of touched upon it, but I think it's important that we help the audience understand, how do you pull up a COE together, right? There is
Yeah.
an executive leadership, there is an operation leadership, there is, communication. So there are different, aspects of this. So how have you seen the best structures that has worked well for this
Right.
organization?
So, I mean, roles can be different for different organizations, but um, I'm going to talk about the core role that I think or do we need to make Celonis happen or process mining happen in any organization, right? You need a lead, a COE lead who understands the value, who understands who is the sponsor of that COE. You absolutely need that. Um, who obviously tell you what are the roadmap items, understand the executive priority, and provide guidance. Like you need a champion there.
Yeah.
Besides the champion, then you need someone who can be the data engineer, right? Someone
Okay.
who can who understands how to pull data, where does the data lies, what are different type of sources do we have in the organization in order to hit those strategic goals. So you need some sort of a data engineer who can pull data from multiple places.
Mhm.
Now, this role become important when you have custom applications in your organizations. Uh, Sometimes it's not that important if you're working with just cloud-based applications where we have process connectors, and we have like 20 thousands of connectors out there to connect directly into SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, ServiceNow. In that one, you probably don't need a full-time guy, but we may need some percent of that person. Um, and then one of the more important role is data analyst or a process analyst,
Sure.
someone who takes that data, convert it into a data model, and then um, display it on a dashboard the way business really expects you to. So he or she is the Celonis expert who understands those transformation scripting, the PQL language that goes into creating those UIs. So these are the 3 and 4 different things that I think is required. Now, I've seen a lot of digital first organizations who have a role called product managers.
Okay.
And these are the people who would write the user requirements, who understand, who is like a glue between the business and IT. They write your requirements, they understand the roadmap, they would do like, they're the execution arm. So, and I had that's how I led in my past life, is Celonis as a product, and we had product managers who were responsible for requirements. Obviously, you work with the business, like they are driving the backlog. They're saying, oh yeah, I need XYZ KPIs on my dashboard. So these are the core skills that I think um, we usually have on our teams. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember starting this, and and there is a little bit of history here because I got into global alliances as a heading the organization a couple of years. The first alliance function that I actually took on was Celonis, so it's a little close to my heart. We started with about 10 people. Today, it boasts of more than close to 200 consultants who
That's
proudly train
awesome.
in Celonis. And apart from the structure that you mentioned, which is integral to what you have, what we've also done, which I think is really paving the way for a lot more, is what we call as the innovation champions, right? So we have a co-innovation lead who actually helps us drive new adoption, right? New use cases, and also even develop something together. In fact, one of the top things that we've done, and the first one is what we call as frictionless contact center is a co-innovation product between Celonis and Tech Mahindra. So I think it is important to also have a structure which has innovation, a co-innovation champion,
Yeah.
which will also drive new use cases, right, and work with your teams and your product teams to come out with new ways of working, and then the next Celonis, the next aspects of Celonis. So I
So
think that's
that's
important
awesome.
component.
That's
Yeah,
really awesome. I've also seen in certain organizations you have process engineers um, who are literally like the black belt Six Sigma guys who understand the business process, and they love Solonis. They love process mining because it gives you all the bells and whistles to really um, drive a process in a more mathematical way. You can
yeah,
literally look at your Six Sigmas and look at Z scores and how you compare one process with another process. Um, and then that's how they can take it and then re-engineer the process going forward. So I've seen that role um, predominantly sit in the business, but sometimes it sits. Sometimes when the COE sits in the business, it becomes part of that function. But yeah.
sure. Uh, Last couple of questions. I think we are getting into the nick of time. So let me put you on a spot. We've spoken so many good things about Celonis, but what do you see as top challenges, right,
Top challenges.
in execution from an execution standpoint?
So obviously, I mean, Celonis is not perfect. We were working on every day. We are enhancing the product itself. Like I said, we graduated from being a process mining company to a more execution management, and we can execute on different strategies that we have. From an execution perspective, I think we still see people stuck in the process mining mindset, where I just want to process mine, but then they would hesitate in taking actions because it doesn't tell you automatically on where do you really want to invest and how do you want to change the process. So I still see a struggle between being a process mining to really realizing the value. That's where we are trying to move our customers to more execution management mindset, get on EMS versus be a process mining. Um, I think there's another area where we could use a lot of ML workbench to become more predictive. Like that's an opportunity where not a whole lot of customers are using Solonis today. And I've seen firsthand where we can literally use the process mining data model, move that into ML workbench, and then become more predictive. Um, an opportunity I would talk about is connecting. People love to talk about digital twin, right? That's amazing
Yeah,
concept. Um, but not everyone executes towards it. you have, and that's one thing we have done really successfully at Dell to really deploy process mining in multiple different process areas, and then connects all of them together using multi-event data models. So now you have an ability to track an end-to-end journey of your customers and then become that digital twin of your organization. So that's an opportunity where I think that's a North Star where every company would want to go is, can I create a digital twin of my organization, pull my data scientist on top of it so that I'm looking at end-to-end process and become more predictive. So these are some of the challenges that every customer goes through as they are thinking through Celonis and process mining and intelligent automation. I mean, this is a top of their of every CEO list across the world. So
Yeah, and I think what we have seen is I think it starts with the how complex your IT landscape is, right? Because
yeah,
more the complex it is, obviously there will be hiccups in terms of aligning your data strategy and alignment and also access. I think that for me has been, it's a mixed bag. There are
yeah,
organizations which has been easy. There is organization which has taken a lot of time. So that is the first challenge. So how complex your IT landscape is and how disparate rather your systems are, right, to access data, right, and to give us the right connections, right, to be able to get those accesses, right. So that is the first point. Second is obviously I think people are still need to fine tune their approach towards getting the right use cases to focus on. I think that is still there needs to be a lot of work and focus on how do you mine the right use cases when you're starting off, right? It doesn't matter once you get a run, get a
yeah,
rhythm on using the mining as a tool, but the initial top 10, 20 use cases have to be really thought through in terms of the value realization and the effort involved, right? And the impact that it will bring to the organizations. For
right,
me, these are the top two things that you would see. The last but not the least, to have the right people leading this, right? I think it's always a function of how good the people are, how much trained they are on some of these tools, right? And then the ability for you to work and come out with a customer value by linking those with those business benefits and having SMEs who can lead this. For me, these are the top three challenges that I see when we are basically good at projects like these.
yeah.
Uh, On to my last question. What next for Celonis?
What next is capturing more market share and working with our partner ecosystem. I think that's how we should work. That's the new way of working is not just sitting here and just going through my Excel sheet, but um, working on Celonis and let Celonis drive your next best action as an operation unit. I mean, that's how our vision is, um, and obviously we need to be more sustainable. Right, that's one thing that um, that's one of our core values is Earth is our future. Right,
Mhm.
and and we have been working and partnering with a lot of our supply chain customers in making more sustainability measures across the planet, and that's one thing that we don't really focus. We love to talk about it. We don't take Not every company take an action, and Celonis is really trying to change that in taking actions. We have done a lot of hackathons. There's one coming up next month to talk about sustainability measures, and we do a lot of hackathons. But yeah, I mean, we love to partner and love the partner ecosystem that we have created to really enable all our customers in their journey. So we'll continue to go on that track.
Awesome. It was great connecting with you, Pranay, as always. I'm sure a lot of learnings for listeners who wants to understand how to get more value realization from a tool like Celonis. Like you said, we're just still scratching the tip of the iceberg in terms of what it can do from a potential standpoint. At Tech Mahindra, we are very excited, right? And in partnering with you, we're hoping to make a lot more customer success stories together, right, in the
Absolutely,
days and years to come. Thank you so much for your
absolutely.
time today.
Thanks, Richard.